good afternoon, and good evening, all of you. Today, through this video, I would like to teach you one of the most interesting poems, that is, The Quarrel, written by Eleanor Farjeon. As this poem is one of the most interesting poems as far as I know, so while we are reading a poem, we must know something about the writer as well, or you can say the poet as well. So this famous poem has been written by a famous writer who is also a poet of children's story, poetry, and many other plays. And the writer of the poem is Eleanor Farjeon. As this colorful on-screen picture, you'll find a brother and a sister standing against each other after a quarrel. See how they are standing. Now, let's discuss what basically happens in this poem. Dear scholars, this poem exclusively deals with the silly fights in which the siblings indulge for silly reasons, and the outcome of the fight results into nothingness. So, you can see this poem beautifully represents how quarrel between two siblings began and ended up without any reason. The poet says that she quarreled with her brother and she was not even aware what was the reason of their fight or what led to their fight. Though we already know that fighting is a general thing. It's a natural thing. How many of you had been in a quarrel with your brother or your parents or your friends? You must have been at times. I also had been. I had even enjoyed it. And if we discuss usually how a fight between siblings starts, it usually starts with some disagreement of facts. And as the fight continues, one thing leads to another, which makes the fight even more serious. And here in this poem, the poet, even after a lot of arguments and disagreements of the facts here, were claiming to be right, as she knew or she thought that her brother was at fault. She considered herself to be right and she thought that her brother was wrong. He was at fault. And so it continued till midnight. That means it lasted all day long. Do you really think that if you fight, or if we fight with our siblings, and if we continue the fight, if it continued, or you can say if it lasted all day long, think is it of any use of us? But suddenly, if we read the last lines of the poem, we get to know that suddenly her brother hit her on back and claimed to be on the wrong side. So, we can say that he was actually right, as he took an initiative to end up the fight, or you can say he took an initiative to end up the quarrel out of his generosity, which shows that he was mature enough to end up the fight. I hope you have understood the poem. Thank you. Now, let's discuss